Hello and welcome back. Today I am going to be working from this beautiful little vintage crochet booklet. So this is Patons First Steps in Crochet number 167. This one dates from around the 1960s, late 1960s, and it's such a great example of how people learned how to crochet back in that era prior to the internet. Patons historically originated in Scotland, but by the time the 1960s came, it had expanded internationally. And while its roots is in Scotland, nowadays it's associated with DMC yarns and Yarnspirations. What I find really fascinating about these booklets is how accessible they were. They were designed for everyday use, something you could pick up easily and start learning how to crochet from home with. Now, at the time, a booklet like this would have set you back about 5 to 10 UK pence, which is roughly the price of a loaf of bread back in that era. So in comparison, a crochet magazine now, such as Simply Crochet or Crochet Now, would cost approximately £10, and a loaf of bread is approximately £1 now. So that's a huge difference. When it comes to price, I guess it is all relative, but I did work on some numbers and research as best I can, and this is what I found out. The average weekly wage in the late 1960s in the UK was approximately £25. So even if we take the higher end of the price estimate there for the booklet at being 10 pence, that's approximately 0.4% of your weekly wage to buy a magazine like this. Nowadays, the average weekly wage in the UK is it's a little bit more difficult to work out, but there's a minimum wage and there's a living wage, which many employees do actually pay. If I average those out, my sums are telling me that the average wage in the UK currently is approximately £600 per week. If I reference back to the price of a magazine being £10, I reach the figure of a magazine costing you 1.67% of your weekly wage. So you can see there, that's quite a jump. It's 4 times the price of back in the 1960s. So here's the interesting part though. While these booklets were quite inexpensive, the yarn itself is where the true cost came. The pattern that I'm going to be using calls for Patons Beehive DK yarn. That was very popular at the time. And a single ball of yarn would have cost you about 8 to 12 pence. Again, roughly the price of a loaf of bread. And of course, most projects needed more than just one ball. You often needed 3 or 4. You could have needed 6 or 8 balls, depending on what you're making. So while the pattern book itself is quite affordable, actually making the item is a bit more expensive, which makes sense really, I suppose, because companies like Patons were yarn companies. They were trying to sell the yarn. So their magazines and booklets and patterns were designed as kind of a marketing tool really to help them with that. In today's world, we have a huge selection of yarns available to us in all different price ranges. We can buy in store, we can buy in online. We're often able to bulk buy. There are sales, promotions. We can thrift yarn, go to the charity shop, do yarn swaps. So it's much easier for us to get yarn. Yarn is much more affordable and accessible now. So that was just an interesting comparison that I found out when I was researching for this. So I love how this connects us to the past. I love how simple the booklet is. I love how it represents a whole culture of people making their own clothes, their own gifts, their own everyday items by hand. And it's really nice just to have that link to the past and to take that little trip down memory lane. So today I am going to be recreating one of the patterns from the booklet using modern yarns. And I'm going to bring you along to follow along with the little journey there. I'll walk you through the project and share my thoughts on it and how I got on. Okay, so I did reach out to Yarnspirations, which owns Patons now, and they gave me permission to use the booklet, show it off, flick through it, once I credited Patons and Yarnspirations as the owners. So while I won't be showing you the actual full pattern in its entirety, just in case, I will be just showing you, flicking through the magazine with you and showing you how I got along making the pattern. So without further ado, let me show you what I made. So I chose this project here. It's called a warm pram cover. So it's a very small, probably what we'd call, a car seat blanket. I've heard it called a reception blanket, like one you bring to the hospital with you and you leave with, over the car seat or over the little carrier when you bring the baby out. So it's a small blanket. And here is how my one turned out. I'm really, really happy with it. I liked the simplicity of the pattern a lot. I liked, I like the row repeats. It's just once you get started, it's just a very simple 2-row repeat. I like the texture that you get from this, and I actually really like the variegated yarn. I like how it worked out. So I'm going to insert some footage here of when I was making it, some progress shots, and I'm going to have a close-up of the blanket in all its glory. All right, let's do our little walkthrough. First Steps in Crochet by Patons. At the start, we have some basics like how to make your slip knot and how to get your yarn on your hook. Then we've got some chaining, learn some basic stitches with lots of lovely pictures along the way to help out. Then we've got some actual photographs of the stitches and the old adage, practice makes perfect, which I love. Then they have some information on working the rounds and increasing and decreasing, as well as how to do some blocks and spaces. So from here on in, it's where I'm actually just going to flick as the projects start, and I don't want to give away too much, but yeah, so there's a little quick flick through. There's lots of different projects: men's wear, women's wear, berets, kids wear, blankets, scarves, lots of different things. So the one I settled on for this project, as I was showing you, was this lovely little pram cover here. I'm going to insert, I used an app to make it come out in colour, so I'm going to insert this here so you can see. But you can see the brevity of the instructions. I'll read you the little introduction here. It says, materials needed of Patons, beehive, Shetland chunky, 7 by 50 gram balls, and a millward hook, number 5mm. It then gives you the measurements, approximately 19 by 24 inches, and I came in slightly over that because I used a chunky yarn. It gives some tension information. It says it's reversible. It shows that it looks slightly different on either side, and then it starts off with the pattern. But it's a very brief pattern. No further diagrams, nothing else needed other than that information there. And I just love the simplicity of that. I really do. So that is the end of the video for today. I would really love if you could like and subscribe. And also I would really, really love if you could comment and let me know if you own any vintage crochet patterns, if you've worked any, how you found them, what are your thoughts on it? Do you have any vintage yarn? What have you worked up with that? How does it compare? I'm very interested in all that, and I would love to hear it. Also, if anybody has any vintage crochet patterns and they think I might enjoy them, please do feel free to contact me. I'd love to work with some more. So thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye. Testing. Hello, welcome back. Today we are going to be having a look at this vintage, oh, it's backwards. Okay, that's